Hello everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I'm David Jones. Normally do this every Friday at 2:30 UK time. I've got a bit of a cold this week, so apologies for any sniffles as we're going through. So how this works, if you've never seen it before, we'll take a look first of all at some of the major announcements that are coming out next week that could affect markets. We'll look at the usual range of markets, stock market indices, FX pairs, gold, oil, Bitcoin, and some commodities. We'll look at that. And then if there's anything that you want looking at, if you're here live, just put it in the chat. And once I've been through all that stuff, we'll take a look at that. Okay, so it's a bit of a quieter today. It's a pretty volatile day yesterday. A big move in oil yesterday on that OPEC stuff. Yesterday. It's been pretty sideways overall for a couple of weeks, oil, but a big move from 79.5 down to 75.5. So we'll take a look at that. Gold is interesting. I've just recorded a gold video that will go on the channel tomorrow with a trade that I put on gold, more medium-term trade. So if you want to see that, just make sure you're subscribed and you'll get the notification thing when that goes up. I think it should go up 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Saturday, UK time. But we'll look at this stuff in a bit more depth in a sec. Let's just get some of the old what's it done, housekeeping. This presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the higher risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Okay, there's a lot going on next week. I mean, the big one is probably this time next week. US non-farm payrolls, the US unemployment numbers will come out an hour before we start next week's live thing. So we'll see how markets are after that. But Monday, Japanese inflation data. So what's going on with inflation? Still clearly a big topic for markets. Tuesday, Australian interest rate decision. Wednesday, Canadian interest rate decision. Thursday, European GDP. How well or not is the Eurozone economy doing? Japanese GDP on Thursday as well. And as I said, on Friday, it's the big one, US non-farm payrolls. So there's a lot going on next week. It's a new month, of course, today. It was a good month for me in November. I shared the numbers in the WhatsApp group this morning. I mean, the big winner for me in November was early in November, and it was US Treasuries. And the Treasury market is a market that plenty of retail investors don't really watch, but it's still an interesting market. And it was, where was I? I was long in this bit, here we go, in November in Treasury, so caught a good move there. But the second biggest winner for the month was gold for me. So I was in, where did I buy it? Can't even remember. About 1970, and I came out this week, I think it was yesterday, about 2036. So that was a good winner. Gold, and then a few other bits and pieces. It was a good month in terms of being right, and nearly 70% of trades were closed at a profit, but those were the two that were the standout winners in terms of making a multiple of the risk. So when it comes to trades I've got on, I went short the dollar index yesterday, bit too early on that so far. Let's see how that works out. And I bought the bond, going back to these bonds this morning. I think it's interesting, the trends that we've had in the European bond since the end of October. So let's see. But there's lots to watch at the moment. It's really interesting, I think. And lots of data next week that could move markets. But Friday is the big one. Let's see. So a quick word from the sponsor, which is me, of course. I run a trading course. I run it for a few years now. It covers medium-term trading, where I hold positions for weeks and months. There's 11 video lessons on that. I'm still long dollar yen from about April, I think, in my medium-term trade. That's my longest running medium-term trade from, or is it March or February? I can't even remember. In here somewhere. Anyway, so I bought dollar yen there. So that's up about 1,400 points. I've got a sugar medium-term trade that I probably should think about getting out of. I've been in since July. Maybe I've been taken out today in this big sell-off. I had a trailing stop on that. I've been in that one since July. And the other one I've got, which has been okay, the longer-term trade, is wheat. And I've been short wheat since about July as well. So I do the bigger medium-term trades, talk about that on the course. And I think that's the right approach for most people who don't want to watch markets throughout the day and have got an actual job to do. You know, you don't need to be sitting there watching stuff second by second. I think it's one of the great misconceptions about trading. You know, in this day and age, if you really want to look at a 1 minute chart of the S&P like that, well, of course, knock yourself out. But trading doesn't have to be that way. You know, I think there's a very relaxed way of trading, and it's not having to sit there and watch every little squiggle in markets. So the medium-term course is that. That's the course that's been around for about 3 years. I launched the shorter-term course last year, November. Was it November last year? And that I've been trading that for a year now. It's done well. I've had 2 losing months this year, February and August. I've talked about the numbers publicly, and you've shown various public bits of trading. That's got, and as part of, there's 7 video lessons with that. There are 6 live webinars as part of these courses, and there's a WhatsApp group. So the WhatsApp group was initially just for people on the course. I've opened the WhatsApp group up since then. Details in a second. That was the period November to end of January, November last year to end of January, when I traded a £4,000 account to show the approach. There's lots of mentions of it on this YouTube channel. You can go back and look at some of those videos. I did it again May to July of this year. Made booked profits of 3,100, it's a bit blurry, on a £5,000 account. Win rate was 58%, which is pretty much my historical win rate. Last month was 69%, November was 69%, which is a bit of an anomaly. Risk rewards, all that sort of stuff is there, and you can see the shape of the P&L. That was May to July on the £5,000 account. The WhatsApp group, you can join that without doing the course if you want to. A daily update from me every morning. What's going on in the markets. Markets I'm watching. I can't even remember what I said I was watching this morning. I think I said I don't normally start my day very early when it comes to trading, but I was up early this morning. And I think I said that I had done the Bund trade this morning. Hang on, I'm just going to look now. What were the interesting markets I said to watch today? NASDAQ 100. We'll have a look at that in a sec. Dollar index, because I was short anyway. Bund, bought that this morning. And oil, because of the move yesterday. So I highlighted some levels on that. Markets I'm watching. Trades I'm running. I did have, about a week ago, I think I had about 7 trades running, which is quite a lot for me, short-term trades. At the moment, I've only got 3. So I talk about those, why I'm in them, where my stop is, all that sort of stuff. And during the day, people in the group can pop in any questions, and I'll answer them as the day goes on. You know, I don't spend 10 hours a day watching markets go up and down. I spend maybe an hour in the morning and then dip in and out of it a couple of times in the afternoon. But for me, it's massively counterproductive to try and watch every wiggle in the market. So you'll see more of that approach, a more relaxed approach to trading in the WhatsApp group. So you can try it for a month if you want to. If you use the code YouTube, you get 20% off the first month. It is chargeable because it's my time, and my time is worth quite a bit to me. So there is a subscription fee. It's normally 50 quid a month, but if you use the code YouTube, you get it for 40 quid. And it seems to have quite a low churn rate in people dropping off. So people seem to like it. Try it and see. All the descriptions and the links and all that stuff is in the description to the video. That's a snapshot of what my morning blah, blah, blah looks like. I write quite a lot in the mornings and whack up a chart of the day. What was today's chart? The Bund, I think, was today's chart. That's it. Trustpilot reviews, 5-star Trustpilot reviews. There's a newsletter that comes out. I have sent it out the last couple of weeks. I won't be sending one out this weekend. I'm not going to lie to you because I'm not going to be around this weekend. But if you go to the website, you can sign up for the free newsletter on the front page of the website. And it's what markets I think are interesting, a trading tip of the week, and bits and pieces like that. And it's all on the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk. Okay, that's it. Right, let's go. Let's get going. What is interesting? Well, there's a lot that's interesting at the moment, but let's start as usual with stock markets. Okay, that's on a 1 minute chart, which we absolutely don't want. It's been a bit of an inconclusive week, I think. This is the S&P 500, the broader US stock market. Is this market going to set new highs for the year in the next month? Or are we going to see it run out of steam up here? I've got no idea. And I don't think this week has shed too much light on that. You know, we're back up to the highs on the S&P from July of this year. We're within 50 points of that. And look, you can see the sort of week we've had. Look how tight the week has been. Okay, we've had Thanksgiving and all that stuff, but it's been a really tight week in terms of volatility. So what would you do? If you want to go short up here, it's an interesting short with stops above 4,600, 4,610 even. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I'm still waiting. I do hope we get a bit of a sell-off so we can see just how convincing all these bulls are who've driven the market up. It's a big old move, 10% plus since the end of October. Let's see what happens. But I am somewhat on the fence when it comes to stock markets at the moment. That's the S&P. NASDAQ, I put in the WhatsApp group this morning, if I was a short-term trade on the NASDAQ, well, that was interesting. I could be a buyer. I could be convinced to be a buyer down here of the NASDAQ. After the big sell-off, we had Wednesday highs, 16,160. Yesterday, 15,820. So we've seen, you know, quite a bit of volatility, relatively speaking. So if I really wanted to be a buyer of the NASDAQ here, the closest I would have my stop would be below yesterday's low or below the low from the middle of November. So it's interesting here. But again, from the dailies, same old as the S&P, really. Do we think these markets are going to blast back up to the all-time highs? Or do we think we're a bit overcooked? I don't know. So I've not done much, if anything, with stock markets at the moment. Russell, we hardly ever look at the Russell, but let's have a look at it. The smaller cap US index. Great trade here, if we could wind the clock back to the end of October, back to the lows that have been in place since June 2022. A little bit in the middle of the range at the moment, so not too much for me. The DAX has surprised me. I would have gone short the DAX, I didn't. But it was looking interesting early in the week when it was like hovering around these old highs from late August. It has taken them out, so it looks like the DAX is gunning for the all-time high at above 16,500. So that's been a strong stock market performer this week when everything else has just been treading water. So that's interesting. FTSE, as usual, doing its own thing. Pretty flat for the year. I've got no idea. I've done some good trades on the FTSE in recent months, but not recently. I haven't done a trade on the FTSE recently, I don't think. So I'm really not too sure about that. And I thought the Italian, let's give a very rare mention for the Italian, whatever it is, 40. All-time highs. Mamma mia. Is that crazy? Apologies to any Italian viewers. There you go. All-time highs in the Italy 40 index. So what's that all about? I don't know. But I thought it was quite interesting that the Italian index is breaking out when we have these US markets just stuck. So there you go. There's an interesting market to watch next week. I think out of all the stock markets, while everything else tries to make its mind up. I was thinking about going short, actually, the Nikkei, the Japanese 225, the Nikkei 225. I mean, the trend is up for this year. It's accelerated away from the trend, and it's hit its best levels. It hit its best levels here in June. We've come back to it, and it's run out of steam. Actually, let's do that. Let's do that short. Let's get a short on. So 34,000 was the old high. We're at 33 now, 33.3. Let's say 34.5, because I was going to do that last week but didn't. As usual, I'm not sure if I've actually got any margin. So this is a real account. It's just the account that I use for the YouTube streams. How small can I trade this? Because I don't want to take on loads of risk. 35 is the minimum. That's probably going to be too much, isn't it? What did I pay for stop loss? 34,500. Right, that's 41,000 yen. It's a Friday afternoon. I've got no idea how much 41,000 yen is in UK money. 186 Japanese yen to the pound. All right, let's do the numbers. 200 divided by 186. 221 risk. That's going to be. All right, let's do that. So I'm going to sell the Nikkei, because I was thinking about doing it last week. I think it makes sense up here. It makes sense to me anyway. We're bumping up against these old highs. I think it's an interesting trade, the Nikkei. If it blasts through those old highs, I'll be out of it. Let's place the trade. Have I got margin? Just about got enough margin. Oh, let's try that again. Should we try that again? Okay, bang. Done. There we go. I've just used up all my margin. So I think that's an interesting trade going into next week. There it is, down there at the bottom. We might have to close some of these trades out if we want to do any more trades, because as usual, I haven't topped up the margin in that account. But I thought that was an interesting one to watch next week. So that one is failing at the old highs. The Italy 40 is smashing through the old highs. So yeah, let's see. So in other markets, what else should we look at? Let's look at the dollar index. So I am short the dollar index. I did a trade, I think it was about a week and a half ago. I went short it. Came out of that for a profit. Went short again yesterday in here somewhere. Was it yesterday? Yeah, in here somewhere. I can't remember. In here somewhere with a wideish stop. Doesn't look like a good short at the moment, but let's see what happens the rest of today. But let's just tidy this chart up a bit. I'm surprised it's pulled back as far as it has. You know, we'd had this downtrend in the dollar since September last year, dollar index, based out in July, had this rally up, and I thought, oh, we're going to leg up again from here, but it hasn't happened. It's sold off to where we are now. So I don't know. I suppose if you wanted to be, if I was a buyer here, I'm short at the moment. If I was a buyer, the closest I'd have my stop would be below the Wednesday low. You know, we have seen rallies in this market since October, but they haven't come to anything. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm short because I'm going with that trend. There we go. There's the trend since whenever it is, beginning of November in this example. So that was my bet yesterday. The last time I traded it was in here, and it promptly went about 50 points against me. Turned out okay in the end. Let's see how this one works out. But that could be an interesting market to watch next week, the dollar index. And of course, with the dollar index doing what it's doing, it has such an impact on all the other markets. Pound against the dollar, for example, has had a great run these past, really for much of November, the past 3 weeks or so. Great trend in the pound, going from 122 to above 127. I think that's interesting this afternoon and early next week. You know, we saw 125.90, had been good support all this week. Is that going to be the case again? Clearly, all depends on the dollar index, how strong that dollar index is. So I think that's quite interesting to see what happens there. Euro, I did notice before I came on, the euro had tanked a bit. Hasn't been as strong as the pound. But again, if we flip it to the dailies, if we go back to the dailies since October on euro US dollar, you know, we have had this recovery. I would quite like a deeper sell-off in the euro for my more medium-term trading approach, because I was trying to buy it in here and it just ran away. So for me, let's see. Let's see what happens with that one. But still weak. But you know, some levels to watch on that one. I would say around 108.20-ish, something like that. Where are we now? 108.46. So we're not a million miles away. You know, these old lows only from a couple of weeks ago, before it went up another couple of 100 points. So that might be interesting to see what happens down there. Let's see. Let's see what happens with that one. So that's it. But really for me, I mean, that is strong, that dollar at the moment. Is this downtrend going to reassert itself in the US dollar? I would lean to yes, which is why I'm short, obviously. But I think if we take out these lows from a week last Wednesday, these highs, sorry, around 104.20, I would be stopped out of my trade if that happens. And I think it looks like we've got a dollar index reversal going on. So let's see what happens with that. Let's look at gold. So I've got this video going out on gold tomorrow. It's interesting, gold. I don't understand why it's above $2,000 an ounce. It was my most second profitable market in November. So I parked my bias towards gold and just traded this trend, which was good. But you'll see a bit more in the gold video that goes out tomorrow. But if we go back 3.5 years, gold does not like it above $2,000 an ounce. So is this time going to be any different? You know, look at these occasions. So my cursor there is at 2,000. Let's plonk a line in. There's the $2,000 line in the sand for gold. And look what happens. Doesn't spend long above there. So I think it's interesting up here, gold. Do we have the same thing happen again? I don't know. In the short term, I'd still be a buyer of the dip because the trend is still up. If we pick up on the last couple of weeks, looks something like that. Let's see. I'd just be a little bit nervous about how much upside there is on gold from these levels. Now, silver, I've not traded this market. This silver's had a great run. Silver, you know, since the 13th, middle of November, it's gone from 22 to 25. So that's a 14% move in silver. I must admit, I was waiting to go short silver because it did this. Let's just zoom in. Let's go back a bit in time. Let's step this forward. So we had this move in silver. There's the downtrend in silver since whenever, since May of this year. And we had the break through the downtrend. And I thought, oh, this thing is going to run out of steam. But it hasn't. It's carried on. I still want to be short silver, but it's got to stop going up before I go short. And it's still going up. And that's been a great trend in silver. So there we go. But again, a bit like gold, you know, we do have some big levels coming up in silver, just above 26, the highest for the year. Is it going to run out of steam again up there? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens. But that's an interesting market, I think, to watch next week, silver. Let's see what happens. Oil, I think oil's a strange one for me. It's been an okay market for me in November. I did a couple of trades on oil. Lots of volatility, lots of swings throughout the day, no real direction is how it's felt the last couple of weeks. So you could argue the big trend from September is still down. So there's our big trend since September. I don't really have an opinion on it at the moment. The hourly charts look like that. Like I say, massive swings over the last, 4 weeks. As high as 80, as low as 73. So 10% swings in oil, but no overall direction. So what do? If I had to do anything today, I'd probably be a buyer to see if it's going to have another go at 80, but no real trend for me. You know, I mean, there's our trend since September. So I don't know on that one. A bit directionless. Heating oil, I did a few trades. I had 2 winners and 1 loser in heating oil this week. Not this week, last month. Because it had been trending and recovering higher, but it's sort of all dumped the last couple of days. Again, with heating oil, you know, I would say the trend is down. If we take it from up here, that's been pretty good downtrends since September. Still weak. Interesting to see what happens at these old lows. November lows around about 290. Not 290, that's wrong. What is it? 275. That can't be right. What's the low? 269. Okay, let's call it 270. So 270 lows on heating oil. We're 271.5 at the moment. Do we see that break and the thing start the next leg lower? So I think that's quite an interesting market to watch. And natural gas. I did buy natural gas last week, too early, but I've got a wide stop. It's a medium-term trade for me, so I try not to bother too much about what's going on with it during the day. But the trend had been up since May, has broken out that trend. My stop is below these September lows. Let's see what happens. But it is still weak. At the end of the week, the natural gas price is still weak. So let's see. Let's see what happens with that. Sorry, hang on a second. Okay. So yeah, natural gas still weak. I would be expecting this trend to return, but it's not returning yet. You know, so let's see. See what happens next week. So that's that, natural gas. What other market? Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin broke, someone mentioned it in the WhatsApp group, broke 38,000 again this morning. Has traded to its best levels since May 2022. So what's that? 18-month, nearly 19-month high on Bitcoin. You know, if you've watched any of the stuff this year that I've done on these live streams, you know, the trend has been up. I'll be a buyer of dips. I don't know if I buy it here, to be honest. If I was trading on the hourlies at the moment, if I was a buyer now, the absolute closest I would want my stop is the other side of 37.5, if not further than that. But it's interesting, you know, and we've definitely, since we had this surge in Bitcoin, I think it was around all that ETF stuff, I can't remember. But, you know, we've had a bit more of a gradual trend in the old crazy coin since then. So that looks positive to me. So let's see. Let's see what happens with that one. As usual, I'd rather buy a pullback rather than chase the market. So that's it. I think there's a lot to watch next week. You know, stock markets, bit inconclusive for me this week, US stock markets. But the old Italian 40 is at fresh all-time highs. The Nikkei, I quite fancy for a short. And everything else is a little bit wait and see. Dollar index, I am short. I'm on the wrong side at the moment. Let's see what happens. Does that run out of steam, which of course impacts the euro against the dollar and pound against the dollar. Oil, I got no opinion on oil. And gold, the trend is still up. I still be a buyer of dips, but I do wonder if gold is going to start running into a bit of selling pressure as the month goes on. Let's see. Let's see what happens. So a lot to watch. As usual, we'll jump into your stuff in a second, but just a quick reminder, for the WhatsApp group, you want to join the WhatsApp group, it's only 50 quid a month. It's 40 quid a month with the codes. It's like less than the price of a cup of coffee per day for my incredible market insight every day and the very occasional dad joke. So you should try it out. All the details in the description. Let's take a look at some of the stuff you want to look at. Aussie Canada, Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar. I would buy the dip. It's interesting. Now, I remember we've looked at that before, haven't we? Because I got the lines on it. I think I said last time when we looked at it, it was a textbook trend reversal, wasn't it? So I would buy the dip in Aussie against the Canadian dollar. That's an interesting market for next week. For me, it's still dipping. The closest, I would probably have my stop below 87.50. So that'd be an interesting one to watch next week. But yeah, I would buy the dip on that. It looks like we are having a reversal of this trend that's been in place all the way since January of this year. So absolutely an interesting market for me. Sterling yen, I'd probably buy that as well. It did break out again, sterling yen, didn't it? It was a good market. I have traded this a bit. I don't think I've traded it recently. It's been a good market though over time. It's been a good trend. So if I was a buyer, it's an interesting market. Let's get rid of some of these lines so we can see what's going on. Would I buy? I wouldn't buy it probably. I wouldn't buy it today. No, but I'd buy it. I'd watch it next week and see what happens in sterling yen because it keeps breaking out. It doesn't quite find the momentum, does it? But for me, I would be a buyer of the dip. Interesting market to watch next week. Again, sorry, let me switch my phone off because it's going a bit nuts. Here we go. And Euro Aussie, Euro AUD. Oh, what's happened there? So the Euro's got clobbered, doesn't it, in the last hour or so? What's going on with it? Is there a little bit of news? No, it's all just nonsense. Hang on, what's the news say? Old news. It really has been it. I mean, it's been a bit boring Euro Aussie, hasn't it, since July? But there's a level 162, isn't there, to watch next week? And the big trend is still up. Let's see what happens next week. If I had to do anything, I'd be a buyer. But it's another one for next week, I think. Euro, Aussie. Verizon. Is there a reversal in Verizon? It depends, doesn't it? It depends where if you take the trend. We've clearly looked at this before because that's where the trend line is. Going back to December 2020. That's a long time, isn't it? 3 years. It's gone from 62 down as low as 30, so it halved in 3 years. I would sell it. I would go short is what I would do, but I would want it to stop going up first. So for me, the trend in Verizon would be to go short. At the moment, I would be thinking stops above 40. I would wait for it to run out of steam though. Interesting run. It's had a heck of a run, isn't it? I mean, it's up nearly 30% off those October lows, but I would not believe the rally and I'd sell short Verizon. Interesting one, then let's come back to it.
I'm having trouble. Please try in a little while.
Sorry, Alexa's got an opinion. Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's come back to it next week and see what it looks like, Verizon. Because I'm just trying to think, what trades did we do last week? I did the Goldman Sachs trade last week. Went short Goldman Sachs in the live stream, which at the moment is against me. Oh, it's not moved much though, has it? That's still a fair enough trade. CrowdStrike's been the big winner. So CrowdStrike, when did I do that trade? Ages ago, wasn't it? Back in the summer. And they had results out this week, CrowdStrike. So I'm still in that trade on the live stream account. And that's really run, that one has, hasn't it? And yesterday as well. So I've got a tight trailing stop on that at 217. And the market was 232 today. So let's see. There's a few big winners in there though. Coca-Cola, Nvidia. It's a bit of a 50-50 split between winners and losers. But overall P&L up £955 in open P&L at the moment on that account. It just shows you how important it is to have a few big winners. A few big winners makes all the difference. So that's that. What else are we talking about? Is the trend in the Hang Seng still down? Let's have a look. Hang Seng. Where is it? Oh, God, I'm really not very with it this afternoon. It's not the China A50, is it? Why haven't I got the Hang Seng? Let's have a look. Hang Seng. Hang Seng Index. I would say it is, isn't it? It's interesting, isn't it? Because we had this, I kept thinking it was going to find some support, but it's still weak. And just today, it slipped to its lowest since here. It's big level, isn't it? That's an interesting one to watch next week. Let's say 16.8 are the lows. Is it going to find some support around here? Because it was support on the way up a year ago now. Let's see what happens. But it still looks weak to me, that one, doesn't it? It just can't build a rally, can it? It looked so promising back here, back in early 2023. But it's been a really disappointing year. So it still looks weak to me, the old Hang Seng. So, yeah, let's see what happens with that one. Palladium and platinum, you've got shorts in both. Palladium, absolutely, it's a big downtrend in palladium, isn't it? It did have quite the rally, didn't it? Let's have a look at it. Where is it? Palladium. There we go. Look at that. So, yeah, had a bit of a rally, didn't it? From 952 to 1086-ish, and it's just turned down again, isn't it? The trend in palladium is most definitely down for me. Let's see what happens next week. Do we get a break through these old lows? So, yeah, still down. Platinum is perhaps a bit difficult. Platinum, you could say the trend is down, although it's been pretty sideways for the last year, platinum. But if I was doing a trade in platinum, I would go short now because we're bumping up against this old resistance. It's perhaps clearer. I can't get my words out today. Perhaps clearer on the hourlies, the resistance from September. So up around 950. So yeah, I would probably rather be short than long platinum at the moment. But it has all been a bit sideways. Over it's been a big range though. Up to 1100, 300. What's that? 40% swing over the last 12 months. But if I had to do a trade, I would be looking to sell short platinum. Which reminds me, some of the other agricultural stuff, well, not agricultural stuff, commodities. Oh, cocoa. Cocoa has been this great trend. Big hit today in cocoa. That's always an interesting market to watch because whenever this thing sells off, the buyers come back in and away we go. Let's see what happens next week. What's orange juice done? Bit messy. Orange juice. Coffee had that big move yesterday. There we go. Big move in coffee yesterday. And in cotton, which I keep meaning to buy. I do quite fancy buying cotton. Even though the trend has been up, it's fallen out of the trend, it has held above the lows for the year. So I think that's an interesting market, a bit quieter than some of the others. But let's see. Is sugar a good dip buy at the moment? I am long sugar, I think, but I might have been stopped out today because it has tanked a bit, hasn't it? It just can't break through $27.50. It's been trying since September and it can't do it. It could be a good dip buy. I mean, the big trend is still up in sugar since September last year. So that big trend is still up. Interesting to see where it all settles next week. I mean, I wouldn't buy it today, but, you know, we'll see where it is next week. You know, there's some levels to watch on the way down, isn't there? Let's come back to it. It's the first time it's been oversold since June, sugar, on the old RSI. So let's see what happens next week. Roblox, RBLX. What does that look like? Boring, wouldn't you say? Been in a range since the summer of 2022. Lows at 25, highs at 53, big range. And it's in the middle of the range. Flip a coin, isn't it? For me. Flip a coin stock. If I had to do anything, I'd probably be a buyer and I'd put a stop below 36. But it doesn't really do much for me, that one. Stuck in a range. And Alibaba, they were in a downtrend. They came out of the downtrend. What have they done since? Oh, I don't know. Oh, they've gone back. Look at that, it's still weak again, aren't they? That's interesting, isn't it? So they were in this downtrend for a long time, going back to October 2020, from about $320 down to 60. So lost 80%. Broke out the downtrend about a year ago. Builds a recovery, but oh no, they don't. And they're back again. That'd be interesting. Another interesting one for next week. Let's have a look at it on next Friday. I mean, it's pretty weak. Gapped lower again today. We have these old lows down around 60. It'd be interesting to see what happens if it does nudge a bit closer to the low 60s. But yeah, pretty weak. Really couldn't build a recovery, could it? That one. So let's see. Spain 30, the Spanish 30. Spain 35, I think you'll find it's called, apparently. Okay, Spain 30. Look at that. All these old Euro markets are done all right, haven't they? Breaking out again, a bit like the Italian. Why has that done so well? That's gone up 1,000 points, so about 10, 11% in November. Yeah, that's a bit too much of a parabolic rise for me. I'd rather buy the dip as usual. But an interesting one, the old Spanish 35. Cocoa, we had a quick look at cocoa. I would buy the dip in cocoa. Let's see where the dip stops next week. And Robusta coffee, yeah, we had a quick glance at that, didn't we? I've got two coffees in here. I never know which one is which. So there's a coffee Robusta. There we go. What would you do with that? I would sell short, I think. For me, it's not been the most exciting market lately. We've had that crazy move yesterday. 27.50 has been the highs. So for me, from a risk-reward point of view, I'd probably rather short it than buy it up here. So yeah, that would be it for me. So yeah, we'll see. And I think if there's this thing, go away. If there's no more questions, we're probably done. I'm going to go and get myself lemsipped up. But lots to watch next week, even though there's not, I think, an immediate amount of stuff to do today. You know, what are US stock markets doing? Maybe we'll see a rally this afternoon. I mean, it's interesting that the Nasdaq is holding above yesterday's lows. I think that's pretty interesting. This dollar index, I could really do with this rally running out of steam and the thing collapsing. And gold, you know, because that trend is still going. Really interesting, I think, what happens with gold up here. I know what I think, what my trade would be from a more medium-term point of view. That gold video will come out tomorrow. So lots to watch, not so much to do. For me, I've done quite a lot of trades in the last couple of weeks. So I'm absolutely having the rest of today off. But a lot to watch next week. We'll come back to it all as usual. Next week, if you'd like to try the WhatsApp group and get daily updates from me, use the code YouTube. And you can sign up and I'll add you in. And that's it. Okay, so good luck with your trading. We'll do it all again next Friday when it is the non-farm payrolls. If you've got any questions for me, you can go to the website and you can get in contact with me via the website. There's a contact button there. So you can do that if there's any stuff you want to send through to me. Don't send through like a couple of people did, a list of 10 markets to look at. If you'd like me to look at 10 markets for you, join the WhatsApp group I'm not some chart on demand service, but any questions that you might have, drop me an email. Always happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, we'll wrap things up there and do it all again next Friday. So until then, good luck with your trading.